Back now with more on the developments in Wisconsin today. I'm joined by Republican United States Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. Senator Johnson, welcome here. Welcome to the Glenn Beck program.
Hello, Judge. Thanks for having me on.
Well, what does all this mean for the future of Wisconsin? Notwithstanding 3 weeks of Democratic senators leaving the state, notwithstanding 3 weeks of union members camping out and literally occupying and living in the Capitol building, the Senate voted that collective bargaining is not a natural right and it won't exist anymore for most unionized state employees. The General Assembly did that. The governor's going to sign it into law. Will there be peace in Wisconsin now, or does this just ratchet things up to another level?
Well, I certainly hope there will be some peace. You know, it's kind of funny. I've been signing up to do these interviews, and I want to talk about the out-of-control spending here in Washington, but the events in Wisconsin keep overtaking events. But you know, Judge, I heard a little bit of your earlier conversation with Pat and John, and I totally agree. This, you know, Republicans, we respect anybody who works hard to build a good life for themselves and their family. This is not a fight against teachers or any other public sector employees. This is about returning balance to the negotiating table when local governments have got to start balancing their budgets as well. And we're just trying to, you know, I think Governor Walker is just trying to return that balance. And that's what's necessary as Wisconsin faces a very difficult fiscal situation.
Let me try this out on you, Senator. I think it's about trying to run government as if it were a business, not as if it were a candy store. I think that's what Governor Christie in New Jersey, Governor Daniels in Indiana, Governor Kasich in Ohio, and certainly at the vortex of all this, your own Governor Walker in Wisconsin have been trying to do. And when you are the person who has their hand in the cookie jar and can take all the candy you want, you don't like it. And so those people were upset by it. It'll take a while for business virtues of not spending more money than you take in to affect everybody, but it's a culture change in Wisconsin, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And let's face it, I was a business person for 31 years. You not only have to balance a budget, you need a surplus. And so it is kind of a discipline, but you know, there's even a difference between the state and the federal government. The reason the state has got to balance its budget, it is constitutionally required to do so.
Right.
The federal government doesn't. And if you take a look at what's happening in Wisconsin, the protests, the anger, the angst, that's over trying to close a $1.8 billion a year deficit.
Right.
The federal government's deficit this year will be $1.65 trillion. Judge, that is almost 1,000 times worse.
Understood.
And that's, you know, again, that's why I'm going to be devoting my time and energy to see what we can do to keep from bankrupting this nation.
Do you and your colleagues in the Congress, particularly Republicans in the Senate who are in the minority, recognize that we are facing an abyss, that the $14 trillion cannot be repaid, that the president wants to add another $1.6 trillion to it? Stated differently, will you vote not to raise the debt ceiling, to stop the government from borrowing, because they're so addicted to borrowing, they won't stop unless the law prevents them?
All we are talking about on the Republican side is what we can do to put hard spending caps, constitutional amendments. You know, Bob Corker's got a statute that he's offering that would limit spending to a certain percent of GDP. We've got to put 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different straitjackets on this federal government to get it to stop the madness, the madness in terms of out-of-control spending. So that is all we're talking about. And you bet I'm willing to absolutely be guaranteed that those hard spending caps are in place.
Got it. Senator Johnson, Senator Ron Johnson from the hotbed state of Wisconsin. It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.